Hello everyone, Oli here, and this is my review of The Face of Evil, the fourth story of the 14th season of classic Doctor Who, starring Tom Baker as the fourth Doctor. The Face of Evil is the 89th story overall, is 4 parts long, and is written by newcomer Chris Boucher. Apologies for the delay, I wanted to take a little bit of a small break as I didn't want to do too many reviews and pretty much burn myself out, so the past month I've just pretty much been relaxing and taking it easy and doing stuff here and there. So the plot of The Face of Evil is as follows. When the TARDIS arrives on a jungle planet, the Doctor encounters two warring tribes, the Sever-Team and the Tesh. The Sever-Team worship a god called Zuranan, and the Tesh are supposedly keeping Zuranan prisoner. But why do the Sever-Team call the Doctor the Evil One? And what are the invisible creatures in the jungle? The Time Lord, with the help of a girl called Leela, is about to find out. So that is the plot of The Face of Evil. The Face of Evil, in my opinion, was actually a good story. I mean, The Face of Evil was actually one of the first classic Who stories I watched back when I was a kid, during the late noughties. I actually liked it. Back now, I still like it, but I do think it's still rather dull in some places, and I think some bits are just very nearish. But production, I must say, was really good and it was very well done. The sets were nice but basic. I mean, it only consisted of the 17 jungle, well, the base of the 17 jungle, full of the jungle noises that came from the 60s Dalek stories. And we also had the test ship, which looked very advanced in comparison to where the 17 were operating. And I liked the Sacred Heart room where Zoanon was. They gave off a video game Final Boss vibes, and I thought that was pretty cool. The special effects were quite good. I mean, not the best, but they were still good for what it was back then. Even though there are some classic Who stories that have better special effects than this story, and I really liked how Zoanon was using the Fourth Doctor's face, and it was just appearing left, right, and center, and it was causing havoc. The scripts were really good dialogue and all that. The direction by Pennant Roberts was decent, and I think did a good job. I think it could have been better. It was still quite good itself. I think the plot of the story was alright. I like the idea of an insane computer developing multiple personalities and how Zoranan pretty much caused the conflict between the Sever-Team and the Tesh. And I also liked how some elements that some futuristic elements and how the Sever-Team pretty much saw it as religious and how they're pretty much using it as like religious holy objects, and how the Doctor mentioned that when he saw one of the Sever-Team doing their version of the sign of the cross to ward off evil, the Doctor said that was something that was used by called the Star Force 7 spacesuit that was used to check the seals and stuff like that. And I also liked how the names came about for the Sever-Team and the technician, the Tesh, and the Sever-Team came from something called the Survey Team, and the Tesh were called technicians. So that was pretty cool. And I think the colonies pretty much the colony settlers that arrived on the planet before the Sever-Team and the Tesh. I think that's how it all came about, and that's how Zoranan was able to cause a conflict between the two tribes. This story had a lot of great moments and great cliffhangers, especially the part 1 cliffhanger when the Doctor and Leela saw the Doctor's face on the side of the mountain, and the part 3 cliffhanger where the Doctor was pretty much being attacked by Zoranan, and Zoranan was like, who am I? That was pretty scary and quite intense as well. Pacing of the story, I would say, is a bit inconsistent. I mean, there were some parts that was good and decent / good, and other parts that was just I just felt it was dragging a bit. And I think it was pretty evident in part 1, but I'll get more onto that later on in this review. So I want to talk about the performances of this story, and I would say they were really good. I mean, not the best, but still commendable to say the least. I think Tom Baker was great in this story, as always. I really like the scene where he threatened to kill one of the Sever-Team tribesmen with a jelly baby, even though he actually wasn't going to, but then it was still a very entertaining scene to watch. He was pretty much saying, take a step further, I'm going to kill this man with a jelly baby, and they were pretty much urging him to do it, and then the Doctor's like, no, I don't do that. He pretty much just eats the jelly baby like that. It was quite serious, but at the same time it was quite humorous as well, and I definitely think that's your typical Fourth Doctor. Originally, the Doctor was going to use a knife to threaten the guy, but then Tom Baker thought that it was a bit out of character for the Doctor, and I must say I agree, because it's a bit weird to see the Doctor using a knife to threaten someone, even though the Doctor has actually used weapons in the past, but I just think a knife is a bit more severe, to say the least. And I also like the scene in the beginning when when the TARDIS landed, the Doctor was pretty much breaking the fourth wall, talking to the camera or talking to the audience, was trying to like straight us like go on like what's this and stuff like that. And I thought it was High Park, and it was a nice little scene. And I also like the scene where the Doctor was doing this trial where the Doctor would pretty much be standing on a platform that was be opening itself, and it had these piranha like creatures called the Hoarder underneath, and that could actually tear apart someone's skin in less than a minute and stuff like that. And I like how the Doctor was able to use the crossbow to shoot some sort of stone to close the platform and render him safe. And Leela actually had something to do, well, to distract everyone to do it. So I think it was nice. It was a nice scene, to say the least. And also, I think when Tom Baker was doing his bit of Zoanna, I think that was quite creepy as well. And he did a good job in that. And you can tell that the Doctor was rather eager and having so Tom Baker was rather eager for the Doctor to be traveling by himself, and he was trying to do his best with Louise Jameson, and he really did. He actually did, but we can tell there was a bit of disappointment that he actually wasn't able to travel alone. I think that what pretty much caused a bit of tension between Tom Baker and Louise Jameson, to say the least. So, speaking of Louise Jameson, she makes her debut playing Savage Warrior Woman Leela of the 17. She does a great job in the story, and this story does a great job in establishing Leela, and she's a great character companion, and she's more hands-on in comparison to other companions. She does get to kill some characters with a knife and Jaina's Thorn, which the Doctor was highly against, and Tom Baker was actually against this as well, and this is what actually added to the tension between the two, because I think Louise Jameson thought Tom Baker was being a bit too big-headed, and Tom Baker didn't really like the fact that didn't like Leela being so violent all the time. I think that's what pretty much caused the tension between the two. But thank God that the two actually have made up, and I think they're doing big finish stories together. Because I like the pairing of the Fourth Doctor and Leela. She's still a joy to watch, but she's still a joy to watch, even though it's not as great as the Fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane, but it's still a nice pairing of the two. I think it's definitely more of like an opposite attracts sort of situation. But yeah, it was pretty cool and stuff like that. So we also meet Leela when she's about to be exiled by the 17 because she questioned the existence of Zoanna. And then I also like the scene when Leela pretty much escapes being tied up, or she wasn't tied up properly, but she was able to escape and pretty much cause some havoc for the Doctor to fire the crossbow to help him during the trial of the Order. And I think that was Leela's establishing character moment. So I think the character of Leela is really good, but even though I do really wish she stayed on the TARDIS for a bit longer than when she was originally on. And I think the transition between Sarah Jane and Leela is a bit of a hard one for me, because I personally love Sarah Jane and I love Leela as well, but it's a bit of a jarring change between the two companions, to say the least. To the side cast, and they were great as well. We had Neva. He was the shaman and the speaker of the Law of 17, was in communication with Zoanna, and he later realized that Zoanna wasn't pretty much a god. He felt betrayed by this, and he assisted Caleb, Thomas, and the other tribesmen to the test ship to try and defeat Zoanna. But then I think he was later killed by Zoanna when he tried to attack Zoanna in the process. So I think he was a good character, and I liked how important he was. Thomas, he was a friend of Leela's, and he assisted the Doctor and Leela in defeating Zoanna. And he was loyal, and I like that. But I don't know if there was some sort of like romantic feelings between Leela and Thomas, but I don't know. I think there was something there, but it wasn't as, I don't know, it wasn't really developed well, or to be honest. And we also had Caleb. I think he was the lead. I think he was one of the other tribes people, and he didn't really like the fact that the 70 members were pretty much so reliant on Neva on Neva, and pretty much wanted to expose Neva as a fraud. And he later became the leader when Andor, the leader, had died. So I think he was one of the people that lived to the end. I think he was arguing with Jabo to see who would lead the 7 team and the Tesh after Zoanna had pretty much been dealt with. And we also had Caleb. He was not Caleb. We had Andor. He was the leader of the Sever team, and he banished Leela in the beginning when she questioned the existence of Zoranan. He died in part 2 when Zoranan unleashed the invisible creatures. And we also had Saul. He was Leela's father, and he was killed during the trial of the Hoarder. And we also had Jabal. He was the Tesh captain and told the Doctor that the Tesh were pretty much experimented on with eugenics. He had kinetic powers which he used to harm the Doctor, Leela, and some other characters. But then, after Zoranan had been defeated and cured, he argued with Caleb on who would lead them, would be either himself or Caleb. Yeah, but I actually thought this guy was creepy, and I think the actor did a good job in doing that. So, our villain of the story is Zoranan, a supercomputer that was pretty much designed to assist the Mordi expedition. He became insane after the Doctor repaired him, and it was like a godlike presence to the humans, well, to the Sever team mainly. And the Doctor's repairs were pretty much caused Zoranan to go mad because the Doctor had pretty much forgot about the trauma that Zoranan pretty much had because he pretty much came into this new world and stuff like that, and it pretty much affected him mentally, and how he started becoming insane and started developing multiple personalities, including the Doctor's own personality, because the Doctor pretty much forgot to remove his imprint or something like that. So that's how Zoranan came to be. So Zoranan was actually the one behind the conflict between the Tesh and the Sever team, and under the impression that he thought he was making his own superhumans. And I actually thought Zoranan was a decent villain, understood, yes, but decent, and I think I like the whole idea of the whole multiple personalities. But do I think it could have been expanded a bit more? Yes, but it's still a good inclusion to the story, and it was pretty much well done. So on to the story's faults. As I said before, I did find it dull in some places, especially in part 1, and some of the writing was a bit sloppy and at times unclear. For example, why and how did Leela and the 17 and the Tesh all of a sudden decide to try and kill the Doctor in part 4? And also, I think another part was when Caleb, Neva, and Thomas and the other tribesmen were about to enter the Tesh's spaceship where they were at the entrance, and when it was explained that the Doctor explained to Leela that you pretty much had to close your eyes and pretty much go through and remove the invisible barrier that was pretty much there, and then how the hell did they get through the barrier? I mean, unless the Doctor pretty much deactivated something in there, or it was deactivated by somebody else, one of the acolytes or Jaleb or something. But it was just, I don't know, I wasn't really buying it for some reason. I just thought they just threw it in there for the sake of just for it being there. And also, I mentioned Leela's father Saul. I mean, he died in the start of part 1, and they never really explained, and they never really got a chance to explore how Leela felt about his death. Aside from part 1, I mean, it's as if they just pretty much forgot about him for the sake of the story. I mean, they could have had at least. They didn't really acknowledge. I thought it was a bit weird how Leela. Sorry, trains. As I was saying before, they didn't really acknowledge how Leela felt about her father's death, and I thought it was just pretty much forgotten about. So they just went along with it. It was just a bit weird for me, to be honest. But to conclude, I think it's still a very good story, even though it does have its faults, as I mentioned before, and it does do its purpose by introducing Leela. So I give the story a 6.5 out of 10. My next review will be another fan favorite, The Robots of Death, so stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching this review. Please let me know your thoughts on the face of evil, and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And join my Discord server if you want to do so. And the link is in the description box. Until then, see you later, guys.